And one of the other great things you did, Dave, is you look at the power of staying highly narrow and focused, because you stayed in the soft tissue category and you went out of your way to eliminate disc and nerve, because remember, there's no way you're going to be able to compete with now we're talking about a 3%er, somebody who's been in business 20 plus years. So he's got deep relationships and contacts. Can you see how hard it would be for you to try to break in with a message that is disc or nerve related when they have an orthopedist or a neurologist in front of you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you see how you wouldn't go anywhere with that?
And that concept of specializing, we didn't get into this, but I also had a meeting with a medical radiologist, and it just speaks volumes. Like you said, when you show up with that AMA impairment book and you talk about you being a specialist and you only deal with soft tissue, you stay away from nerve, disc, and concussion, it makes them exactly what you said. You're not one of those weird guys. Now they feel comfortable with you. Okay, I can accept that. It's really important to hit that when you meet with these attorneys or other doctors, because they, like you said, they have a misperception of what chiropractors think they can or can't do.
Yeah, and so it's good to bring it up and move it off the table exactly like you did. And by you doing that, you gave yourself credibility into the one category where it was even more so needed. I'll give you a short little example. I had a doctor say one time, well, how about if we do, he found out some kind of trick with an MRI, MRI with some kind of motion. And he said, well, how about if that's my message? And I said, well, number one, you can't beat an orthopedist with a disc and an MRI. Number two, it's a much smaller percentage of volume of business. It's only 32% versus 87%. So you're dropping down in the number of potential cases, number one. Number two, there's an orthopedist with absolute high authority way over your head that they will easily use way before you with a disc evaluation, or a radiologist on an MRI. And then number three is as soon as that technique is known, they don't need you. They don't need a chiropractor to do that motion MRI study. And so there's all three of those reasons. But for some reason, he thought that made sense, that's what his message should be. So they don't need you. There's other people with higher credibility, and there's less potential business. I said, how much sense does it make to use that as your message?
It doesn't even really make a lot of sense to focus that much on chiropractic. When you show up there with that AMA guidelines and you talk about AOMSI and altered orthokinematics, and you have it documented from what the AMA states on it, it's a whole nother conversation and respect you get.
Yeah, there's nobody that can compete in that language. Orthopedists can't, neurologists can't. Dave, if you don't mind, let's take a second now that you brought up your MRI meeting. Let's walk through that too and just share that story too, okay?
Yeah, well, I had I was trying to put my team together, and I called Paul to see, hey, I got a meeting with a medical radiologist. What should I say? What should I go over? And again, he focused on just making clear that I'm a specialist and the type of cases I'm looking for. And what we were looking for was the MD to be comfortable commenting on a CRMA report. So I brought a sample CRMA report. I brought my AMA guide to impairment, 5th edition, with some schematics and some pages marked. And that's all I talked about. I talked about that I'm an expert in biomechanics of the spine. I'm not dealing with disc, neuropathy, concussion. I'm not dealing with fracture, break, dislocation, infection, tumor. That's why I wanted to refer my regular x-rays to him to evaluate for those things. But what would be helpful is if he could review a CRMA analysis report and just make a comment that he reviewed it and concurs that the report states that there's altered biomechanics. And he was fascinated with it all. He was making photocopies of the pages out of the AMA Guide to Impairment, knew nothing about biomechanics or any of this stuff, didn't even know what AOMSI was. But the fact that so if I had not brought that third-party verification of the guidebook, he probably would have just thought I'm talking chiro, whatever, and it's not in his world.
Yeah, so, no credibility. But also what we did, and I try to share that with the doctors, how ignorant even the radiologists are. Just like, this is an MD radiologist, probably been in business 10, 20 years, and he doesn't even know or document altered arthrokinematics or never even heard of AOMSI. Now, what I keep pounding the desk about is that is absolutely good news. In other words, if you know educational sales, what that means when they don't know this stuff is it's an absolutely wide open market. That's what it means. It's wide open. But you won't get the business if you don't do sales, and you won't get the business if you do advertising or publicity. There's no advertising or publicity that would have been able to do what you did. Is that not right, Dave? In other words, you had to speak to him. Now, also, we simplified it, and we talked, Dave, and I said, the only documentation we want from him is translation and angulation, and that's it. We went really, really simple. Now, Dave, did you get a chance to talk to him about that, angulation and translation? All right, so it looks like we lost Dave here on the connection. But anyway, I just wanted to share Dave's story with the
I'm still here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, and my question, Dave, was when we simplified it. Remember I talked with you and I said, make this really simple, only cover angulation and translation, show him a sample report, and then show him the documentation and the AMA guides, right? And so when he did that, what was his comments on angulation or translation?
To be honest, they don't know anything about it. He said, that's not really my area. I'm not an expert. I don't really deal with biomechanics. He goes, but I could see the value in these cases. He goes, let me review. I'm going to copy all this information. I'm going to review it. And it seems reasonable request that, I said, all I'm asking you to do is comment that you reviewed the report and concur with that you reviewed the report and concur, and that's it.
And the report just shows if it was inbounds or out of bounds of normal movement. That's all the report shows.
And all I told him was normal versus abnormal, kept it simple. And I wasn't asking him to become an expert on biomechanics. I said, that's my job. I need you for your expertise on pathology and all the other stuff. And we can work together as a team to help these personal injury patients. And with that approach, as long as he saw the third-party verification of the AMA guidelines, he seemed very open to it. But he admitted ignorance. He's like, he didn't know anything about this stuff. And
that's what I keep trying to tell doctors. These attorneys and these radiologists, they don't know this information, meaning it's wide open. That's huge potential. And so how'd that meeting end?
It went great. In fact, he walked me in to meet with the billing department. We went over how I could send over personal injury cases, and they'll take care of them even if they don't have insurance. And then I'm supposed to follow up with them later this week on the CRMA report and doing that. And he said, yes, we'll take all your low back, because I'm an upper cervical office, so our X-ray equipment's set up a little different. So he was very happy that we'd be sending over low back X-rays and any MRIs that were requested or anything like that.
And that's exactly how it works. And so many doctors are afraid to go talk to the radiologist. And this fear of that they know more than you or whatever this fear is. And it's not that way at all. They really don't. We are absolutely the expert in intersegmental motion. And nobody can compete with a chiropractor with the 3 ranges of motion, the 3 phases of healing, and altered intersegmental motion. There's absolutely nobody. And it's the massive amount of cases. And remember, I even said the cases that have disc injuries are nerve injuries. Once you start working with the attorneys and they see how you can document all this soft tissue injury, that's when they naturally will include you with the disc injury or the nerve injury. In other words, the big case, that's when they'll naturally include you for your documentation and your therapeutic protocol to make this case even bigger. And that's the way in to the disc and nerve. It is not coming in trying to represent yourself as being the disc nerve doctor also and trying to trump a radiologist or an orthopedist. So, all right, so it pretty much went as we talked about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel good now when I talk to these attorneys that I've got a medical radiologist on my team. And that, again, speaks volumes to them.
And you did all of this in 10 days, didn't you?
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, Dave's a person that takes action. So just like that, he's got a medical radiologist on his side, simplified it, and blew a major personal injury attorney out of the way. And remember, that's one of the best ways to sell. That's, when I get a patient that comes to me with an attorney I don't know, that is like the best case to have for a couple of reasons. Number one is I'm gonna own that attorney. I love it when a patient comes to me and they already have their attorney, because now they have to listen to me. I'm going to be able to meet with that attorney because I'm treating their patient. He's going to have to meet with me, and he's going to have to listen to me. And then I'm going to personalize that patient that we're working on together, the whole presentation, and I will own that guy. That is the absolute easiest attorney to win over. Is when a patient comes in that already has an attorney that you're not working with. That's a fantastic opportunity is what that is.